Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, at the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia, our Washington correspondent, Kylie Morris. Kylie.
Welcome to Philadelphia, where we've just heard the choir rehearsing. The Democrats are gathering to crown Hillary Clinton as their official presidential nominee at a time when politics here feels constantly overshadowed by tragedy, from terror abroad to violence at home. The latest just last night, when two boys aged 14 and 18 were killed and more than a dozen others injured outside a nightclub in Fort Myers in Florida. Simon Israel has the latest.
It's a sign of the times when police have to declare another mass shooting is not an act of terror. The motive behind this latest in the car park of a Florida nightclub has not been revealed. The markers on the ground, though, tell you the scale. More than 60 shots were fired. And there's another long list of casualties, mostly teenagers, who've been partying into the early hours.
At least 2 dead, as many as 16 injured, mostly teenagers.
One kid got shot in the head. One kid got shot in the neck. We see people that got shot, they fell to the ground, and then everybody kept running.
The partygoers were leaving Club Blue when the shooting began. Parents had arrived to pick up their children. Everybody ran or dived for cover. Of the 16 who were taken to hospital, the youngest was 12, the eldest 27.
This is ridiculous. It has to stop. It's time for it to stop. I mean, all this killing for no reason. And I guarantee you it was about nothing. For something like this to happen, it's about nothing. When it happens like this, it's about nothing, nonsense. Something so minute, they can't even sit down and talk about it to hash things out like that. They got to just come and shoot into a crowd of people.
And this latest episode of American mindless mayhem has so far claimed 2 lives, a 14-year-old boy and an 18-year-old basketball player from a local school.
I saw everybody running and I kind of figured it was gunshots. But it was real chaos. I mean, it was just people screaming and running and trying to get their family members out of there, screaming names and all that kind of stuff. So
by morning, police started to clear away what had marked out the details of this shooting spree. The club had promised tight security all night, but the area, though, is notorious for drug dealing and violence. According to the police in Fort Myers, this wasn't the only scene connected to the shooting. Another house in the same neighborhood was shot at, and at another address, there was an arrest.
Well, here in Philadelphia, there really should be a sense of celebration, but instead there's a distinct whiff of crisis. Latest polls show that Hillary Clinton has slumped 10 points and is now trailing behind Donald Trump. And there's political embarrassment too after the leak of thousands of emails showing how Democratic Party officials tried to undermine Mrs. Clinton's presidential rival, Bernie Sanders. That has forced the resignation of the party chairwoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and an FBI investigation is now underway into the email hack. Now, in just the last few minutes, Bernie Sanders was booed as he called on supporters to help elect Hillary Clinton as president. Today's Democratic Convention theme, United Together.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz!
As chair of the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is supposed to play a neutral role. But today, protesters shouted shame, shame, shame and forced her off stage, furious at new evidence the committee is rigged against their man, Bernie Sanders. Their anger inflamed by an email leak at the weekend that exposed her team had intervened on Hillary's behalf. One email from May shows Executive Brad Marshall suggesting that they use religion against someone in the Sanders camp, someone fitting the description of Bernie Sanders, who's Jewish.
I think I read he's an atheist. This could make several points difference with my peeps. My Southern Baptist peeps would draw a huge difference between a Jew and an atheist.
Another shows the DNC kicking around anti-Sanders narratives to sell the media.
Wondering if there's a good Bernie narrative for a story, which is that Bernie never ever had his act together, that his campaign was a mess.
The stage was set here to celebrate Hillary Clinton's nomination for president. Instead, that's been drowned out by another email scandal. Her campaign manager pushing back by claiming the hack was a Russian ploy to help Donald Trump.
What's disturbing to us is that experts are telling us that Russian state actors broke into the DNC, stole these emails, and other experts are now saying that the Russians are releasing these emails for the purpose of actually helping Donald Trump.
That all seems irrelevant to the wing of the party that has taken to the streets determined to derail the presumptive nominee.
Hell no, DNC, we won't vote for Hillary.
Bernie Sanders spoke a short time ago to his supporters, celebrating their success in transforming the Democratic Party.
When we began this campaign over a year ago, we were considered to be fringe players by the establishment and the corporate media. Well, a year has come and gone. We're not fringe players anymore. We have got to defeat Donald Trump. And we have got to elect Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine.
He may have lost the nomination, but today he was the one who sounded triumphant, while Hillary Clinton's week got off to a very bad start indeed.
Well, we'll have more from Kylie in Philadelphia later.
Well, welcome back to the Democratic Convention here in Philadelphia, where the theme and the program, at least for day one, was unity. But the theme has been anything but. Bernie Sanders supporters calling about Hillary Clinton, saying that she should be locked up, sounding very much like the Republicans. Hillary Clinton falling behind in the polls, and an email scandal which has forced the resignation of the chief of the Democratic National Committee. With me now is the MSNBC presenter Joy Reid. Now, WikiLeaks, which released all the leaked Democratic Party emails, warned that their lawyers will be monitoring your program, Joy, after you announced that your show would be investigating the unprecedented affinity between Donald Trump, Russia, and WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
How did you end up in the middle of this story?
Yeah, quite an ominous warning from an organization that calls itself a privacy or watchdog for the public. Now apparently intimidating journalists has been added to Julian Assange's portfolio. So we noted it, and we're just going to keep on doing the reporting that we're doing.
What is the evidence? I mean, we know the FBI are looking toward the Russians, but as yet there's no hard evidence, as far as we know, that there was a state actor involved in this.
Well, what we do know is that government investigators do believe that there was a Russian hacking operation that didn't even try to hide itself. They actually left very obvious breadcrumbs. They called themselves bears. There were a couple of different hacks into not only State Department and some official emails, but also into the Democratic National Committee. They turned that information over to WikiLeaks, and there have been various journalists in the United States that have been examining the ties between Julian Assange, who of course is the founder of WikiLeaks, who is in exile right now in Ecuador inside of an embassy, and people like Edward Snowden, who he apparently advised to go to Russia. So there are obviously circumstantial links.
Can we have a look at what the impact of those emails has been, the release of them? I mean, we saw a very angry crowd surrounding Bernie Sanders this morning. It's really derailed the beginning of the convention, hasn't it?
It absolutely has. Democrats were looking for a unified convention. Bernie Sanders had won big concessions from Hillary Clinton, who beat him in the primaries. Now what you have is the charge that the Sanders campaign had been making the whole time, that the Democratic National Committee, which is supposed to be a neutral arbiter in the primary, was actually on Hillary Clinton's side. They now have evidence of it in these emails. It's caused a new eruption among Bernie Sanders supporters.
I mean, you say a new eruption. Bernie Sanders supporters were already coming here ready for a fight. They wanted to try and cause as much chaos as they could, didn't they?
There was already a plan for at least 4 different protests. There was a big rally with Bernie Sanders this morning. He now has endorsed Hillary Clinton. He's gone on record saying he wants her to be the next president, that he will campaign to try to stop Donald Trump from being president. But that doesn't mean that his supporters agree. And many of them have always had this sense that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's the head of the Democratic National Convention, at least till the end of this week, has been against them, that the system has been rigged against them. This gave them ammunition.
Donald Trump had a chaotic convention last week. The Republicans had a chaotic convention, but he's had a bump. I mean, suddenly he's surging in the polls. Can Hillary Clinton afford a chaotic convention here? Can she expect a bump, or would she be punished for that?
Well, typically there is a bump that comes after a convention. It's what's to be expected. 4 or 5 points is normally what happens after your convention, because you get national exposure, you solidify the support among the people who are for you, and you expose yourself to people who hadn't been paying attention. So it's not surprising that Trump got a bump, even with all of the chaos. Hillary Clinton cannot afford to have a chaotic convention and disunity. She really needs a solid convention because she does have issues with the electorate that she's got to work out this week.
Okay, Joy Reid, thank you so much for joining us.
That's
all we've got time for. There will be a lot more from this convention in the next few days, but for now, it's back to you, Kathy, in London.
I've been getting